Coach, do you have any new or different thoughts today after you've watched the film and had opportunity to break things down with your coaching staff than you did immediately after the game?
Yeah, sometimes there's a saying in our profession that's never as good or as bad as you think it is. Certainly, I've watched the game every phase of it 3 or 4 times now, and there's certainly some positives to take away from the game. I think the thing that I'm the most disappointed in, I think defensively, the way that we tackled, obviously, I think I mentioned that after the game. Thought we played really hard on defense. Didn't fit things up as well as we'd like to. Had more missed assignments than we'd like to. The tackling was glaring. We had 19, 20 missed tackles in the game, and haven't really had that many around here in a long, long time. So something that we work on a lot, we talk about a lot, and so we got to go to work on that, obviously, and get that fixed. And on the offensive side of the football, you saw glimpses of some really good things. I thought that when we executed what we were doing, we were able to effectively move the ball. Against a really good team like Notre Dame, plays that are 3, 4, or 5 yards, maybe bigger plays against other people. And we knew that it was going to be that way. And we had a 13-play drive and a 14-play drive, and we knew it was going to be arduous. I think when we had breakdowns, it was a lack of execution, really us kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. Really nothing that, outside of being a really good, athletic, big football team that Notre Dame did to us to slow us down on certain drives. But on top of that, there were some effort things that I'm not pleased with, and that I will address today. It's not who we are. It's not what we represent here that will get fixed, and certainly won't happen again.
So it seemed like the defense was back on its heels a little bit. Obviously, during your time as defensive coordinator, you did a good job of keeping offenses off balance. Obviously, you weren't calling the plays, and you're not making the defensive calls anymore. How did you see the defensive calls? Did you feel like you all were in react mode and not dictating as much as maybe you have in the past?
Yeah, I think PJ Volker is phenomenal. He put together a really good game plan. I think, when you're having trouble stopping the run game, which we were, it opens up a lot of other things. And we have a quarterback like Sam Hartman, and they're able to capitalize on some things. And we talk about being efficient on 1st and 10 around here a lot. And our goal is to be 60% efficient. We want to give up 3 yards or less on 1st down. I think we were 26% efficient on 1st down. And so there's a direct correlation to how good you're going to be on 3rd down when you're not good, and when teams can stay on track. I think you heard Marcus Freeman talk about it being a real advantage for them to get ready for us. He talked a lot about the option and the offense, but I think on the flip side of that, I think having that much extra time to prepare for what we do defensively, as unique as it is, certainly was a benefit for them. But I think having Sam Hartman, the way that he sees things, the way that he identifies things, the plays that he got him into when we showed certain things, just shows his savviness and their preparation going into the game. And I've been there as a play caller. When teams are on track, it's really hard to get dialed in, and it makes the calls more difficult. And so certainly, didn't think we played very well on defense. A lot of that was some missed assignments, some missed tackles. But there's some things we could have done a little differently, within the course of the game that would have helped us. Maybe some things that we should have carried going into the game. But that's a collaborative deal that we're all involved in. But as far as the play calling and the communication during game day, I thought it was all on point. Certainly don't have anything to second guess PJ about. It was a really good football team that we saw, and it's kind of a helpless feeling sometimes when you're a defense coordinator and you're making calls against a team like that, and you're not really doing anything really well. And so, but no, I don't. Certainly, I'm not second guessing anything that we did. Some adjustments that we tried to make, and I thought PJ and the defense staff did a nice job. It was just a challenging football game, for a lot of reasons.
So the missed tackles, where do you think that came from? I guess you didn't see that in preseason?
No, I really didn't. Like I said, we spent a lot of time on it, and I think, Bill, a lot of that had to do with the team that we were playing. I mean, said three big physical running backs, and we had guys squared in a hole, missed a couple of times, bounced off guys, and part of it's not wrapping up and not shooting our guns, not scissoring as we call it when we go to get on people's legs, and um, and that shows up a lot in the first game of the year. I didn't expect it to show up as much as it did, and that's something that we'll obviously put a renewed emphasis on and work on this bye week.
And last for me for now, I asked you about after the game, but the quick passing game that we've been hearing a lot about, you had mentioned that you weren't able to get into a play calling rhythm a lot of times because you had short possessions and not many possessions, but you said you were going to review it in hindsight. Did you feel you should have thrown the ball a little more?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first half was interesting, Bill, because like I said earlier, we were getting some things that we wanted to get look-wise from them. We had a numbers advantage. I thought we were able to take advantage of that a little bit. We only had 3 drives, in the first half on offense. The fourth one was a nil right before the half, and thought we were doing some good things. And so when you're kind of on track and getting what you hope to get, you kind of want to run your offense. I do think there's certain times that we could have done some of the quick game stuff that we've got in the system, some of the RPO stuff, and would have liked to get to that in the second half. Something that Coach Chesley and I talked about, and we certainly want to open it up more. I think what we were able to do was we did get the ball on the perimeter quite a bit, as you saw from the game. And like I said, some of those plays, we get them on the perimeter against other people, they're going to be big plays, and they weren't all obviously against Notre Dame. But yes, I think we're always going to do what it takes to win a football game. I'm not interested in the perception of things or pleasing the crowd and what we do offensively. I want to win games. And once we got the second half and it's 35-0, I'm not going to get into a passing game deal. We're going to run our offense, and I'm not going to make things worse than they are, if that makes sense. So yeah, we want to be able to spread the ball out. We want to be able to get the ball out quickly, but we always want to be able to take what people give us. And some games that might mean throwing it 25 times, and other games it may be 5. And but we're going to do whatever it takes to win. And but yeah, certainly something we talked about, and there was a place for it at certain times, especially maybe right there at the beginning of the third quarter. But really in the first half, really we were running our offense, and I agree with every call that was made, in that first half.
Scott Wyckoff.
Hey, Coach, putting the Notre Dame game in the rearview mirror, how do you handle the bye week this week in moving forward towards Wagner, handling the week's worth of practices into the weekend?
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity to get a jump start on our opponent. It's an opportunity to make corrections, from the Notre Dame game. An opportunity for us to really go back to work on the fundamentals, 4 core skill sets, reevaluate our players. At this point, my message today to our team is every job is open right now. And so I want them to go out and compete this week, and we got to get better, and we got some work to do. And so this is going to be a work week for us, but obviously it's a chance to kind of get ahead on your next opponent, really kind of the next 2 opponents.
And after the game, you said this one game won't define this team or this season as you move forward. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, we had high expectations going in that game, and the outcome is not what we hoped for or expected. But what I wanted them to understand was we're going to bounce back. Our message is always want to know. We have our move on Monday, and part of it is moving on from the previous week. Whether we win or whether we lose, we're going to move forward, and we're going to go to work, and we got to be able to do that. And but yeah, the message there is, I still feel the same way about the potential of a football team that I did going into the Notre Dame game. So that's what I wanted them to understand, and I do. And I think we can go on and do some great things this season, but we've got to attack this week, and we've got to get a lot better. There's no doubt about that.
Building on what you did like from the film, what do you really like that came out of that game positively that you'd like to build on with Wagner?
Sure. Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think we did some good things offensively. I thought we put together a 13 to 14 play drive there against a really good football team. It was the lack of consistency that killed us, and some missed assignments, guys behind the sticks. We weren't able to take advantage of some of the shot plays that we knew going into that game. When we called a play action pass and it's open, we're going to have to hit those. We weren't able to do that, but certainly some things, running the offense, Ty getting us into the correct plays, getting the ball on the perimeter, which we want to be able to do, I thought was a positive takeaway. And when we had 11 guys doing their job, the picture was pretty good. We got a little bit tired, and we had 8, 9 guys doing their job, and that's where the breakdowns occurred, and that's going to happen against really good teams. You can't get away with that. And then defensively, I thought the effort part of things was there. We just played a really good offensive football team, and just couldn't get any momentum. Had opportunities to get off the field and didn't do it. As a play caller, there's always some things you want to be able to get back. And but just like our players learn from their mistakes, we learn from ours as well. And we just got to move forward.
And moving forward, good to be back home. A chance to open up with the home opener coming up at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. It was obviously a great trip going out to Dublin, but it was a lot. You guys that made the trip, the fatigue was real. It was really never knew what time it was. So to get back, get some rest. We came in a little bit later this morning. We're not practicing today. Our players lifted at lunchtime today. We'll have meetings this afternoon and put the game to bed, so to speak. But yeah, good to be back. And excited about our first home opener. I'm excited about a chance to get better in a bye week.
And finally, Coach, I know some people think it's a cliche, but a lot of times coaches say you see the biggest improvement with a team from week 1 to week 2. I would imagine that's something that you're really looking forward to against Wagner.
Absolutely. That's my hope. And that's certainly the case every year. How much of an improvement is the question, and how much of an improvement our players are willing to make. So yeah, we're going to get after them this week. I'm looking forward to the week of practice, and we certainly got to get better, and we will.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Pete Medhurst.
Sorry, trying to unmute myself. Brian, how do you, twofold for you and the players, as coaches, how do you not overreact to the film and to what happened? And as players, they're disappointed because they've put so much into trying to play that game and didn't get the result that they wanted. How do you make sure that both stay on balance and obviously get back to some rhythm of preparation and obviously, positive mindset going into game 2?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you always address the hard truths. I think our players understand the team that we just played, maybe the best team we play all year. I think the thing that you point out are the positive things, some of the things I mentioned earlier, things we can build on. Despite the score, you look at some things and we're really, really close to that being a very different game. There's always 5 or 6 plays you can take away from a game. There's probably 9 or 10 in this game where you really feel like if we make a play here, if we execute here on both sides of the football, it's an entirely different game. For example, 2 opportunities to get on the field on 3rd and long in the first drive of the game. We don't do it. We get the ball, we drive down the field, we get in 4th and 3, we play action, we have the guy wide open. We screw up the protection, we run a wrong route, we get 2 guys on top of each other. You execute that play and you're down in scoring position. It's 21-0. We're driving the ball at the end of the first half. We don't get any points out of that drive. We give the ball back to them with 1.5 minutes left on the clock. Some things I wish I'd have done to manage the clock differently toward the end of the half. But if you go into the half 21-7, you feel pretty decent, despite you're down 14. You're in the game and you get the ball coming out in the 3rd quarter. And so it's never as good or as bad as it seems, right? And there's certainly some things to build on. There were some really good pictures that you saw, but obviously a lot of what happened was self-inflicted. And we got our butts beat, and there's no skirting that. But we certainly didn't help ourselves in a lot of ways, and that's the disappointing part for me as a coach. But you also want your players to understand, hey, as bad as it was against a really, really good football team, we're not far off. There's a lot of little things that we can get fixed and that we can change moving forward, and we'll be a much better football team.
Was that maybe the most disappointing thing coming out of this the fact that the players had talked about the messaging that you and the coaches have obviously been consistent with about controlling, especially being elite in the intangible things.
Yeah.
You mentioned the route that everybody saw, the plays wide open there. Bad pitches, a bad time, obviously bad timing on a snap. Was that maybe the most frustrating thing from a coaching staff is that type of stuff that really you do control?
Certainly. 100%, Pete. That's what we talk about all the time. The effort and the execution piece are the two things that we have to be as good as anybody in the country on. And we weren't on Saturday. And the margin for error is so small for us, especially in a game like that if we're not doing those things at an elite level, then we're not going to have a chance to win those kind of games. And I said it before the game, and it wasn't going to take a miracle to win that game, but we certainly were going to have to be at our absolute best just to have the opportunity to win, to be in a position to win at the end of the game. And we didn't do the things necessary to put ourselves in that position.
The new clock rules look like if you all execute what you're doing and do it well, this could even play more into your favor, and why missing on that fourth down play was important. This was a very fast football game. There were fewer possessions, even, by the nature of the way this game is played. Is that something that, as you clean up execution, could be something kind of some of that hidden stuff that maybe also helps benefit you all as a team?
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of the reason why you run the offense, right? Is to possess the ball and keep your defense off the field as much as you can. I think the thing you saw in the first half was Notre Dame did a great job of possessing the ball and keeping it away from us. And certainly couldn't get off the field. I don't know what the time of possession was at halftime, but I'm assuming that they had the ball for the majority of the half. They received the opening kickoff, and they did a great job of possessing the football. I think we ended up winning time of possession. At the end, I think we had 33 minutes, but most of that was in the second half. We had a long drive there in the fourth quarter, but they did a good job of possessing the ball. I think they had, their 4 possessions. The first half, we only had 3. Really can't count the last time we got the ball back after they scored because it was a kneel down, right? So, yeah, I think that's certainly the plan. It always has been here. That's kind of the formula to win games, is to run the ball, possess the ball, keep your defense off the field as much as you can, and limit the offensive possessions of your opponent.
Thank you, sir.
Wags.
Coach, did you come out of the game healthy? I think I saw Josh Pena limping off. I mean, overall, do you feel like you came out of it healthy? Nobody notable is going to be unavailable for Wagner?
Yeah, nothing long term. It's a physical game. Obviously, come out with some bumps and some bruises, but mostly minor stuff. It's been, despite the way that we practice, the physicality, which we do things. Fall camp was really good. We had Kenny McShan tore an ACL in camp, was the one long-term injury that we had, which is pretty devastating for him, for us, just a good football player. But outside of that, we haven't had a lot of serious injuries, and the same thing coming out of Notre Dame. So I'm pleased with that, especially going into bye week. There's nobody that's not going to be ready to play against Wagner that played for us, on Saturday.
We'll get down in the mouth. I mean, that's kind of your job. That's the new job of being the head coach, is you got to keep everyone in the organization on a positive note, no negativity. Can you talk about that? Is that something you kind of first time you've had to address that as head coach?
Yeah, I think that's always been our mindset around here, and we're never gonna stay emotionally attached to a game. You got to be able to move on, and it stings. And like I said, that's why we want to put the game to rest. First opportunity we have, which we'll do today, and then after that we'll move on and move forward. And the message is always we're 1-0. That's a little bit of coach speak, but that's the truth. That's the way we got to approach it as players and as a staff. And I'm still excited about our season. It's a long season, a lot of football left to play. And again, we played a really, really good football team. That's a team that may end up, I could be wrong about this, but being a playoff type caliber football team. And so we got to take away as much of the positives as we can, and fix the things that we can get corrected. Yeah, I think we're in a good place. We lifted this afternoon at lunch. The energy was good. It's positive. Nobody's going to the tank around here. There's no reason to do that right now. And we got to be smart about. It's a long season, right? So we got to be smart about the way that we practice, the way that we do things, and how we take care of our players. And but no, I'm disappointed about Saturday, but my optimism about our season and our football program and this team has not changed.
You mentioned that the message is that all jobs are open. Evan Warren, the kicker, he missed the field, but then he made a field goal, but he's going to still look at the kicking position.
Yeah, I think I said this before the first game. We have two kickers that are both good football players, and Evan had been the one that had been the most consistent, throughout camp. But certainly the next 2 weeks we'll evaluate those guys. And I don't want anybody to feel like their job is safe. You got to pay the rent every day around here, and there's a standard and an expectation. If guys aren't meeting that, then we've got to make changes. But we always want to put the best guys on the football field, the guys who give us the best chance. And that doesn't matter, if it's a senior that's played a lot of snaps or a captain, or if it's a plebe. We're going to put the guys on the field that deserve to be on there, and they're going to give us the best chance to be successful. And more importantly, the guys are going to give maximum effort to do what we're trying to do.
What did you like about Brandon Chapman, and what are you looking
Now,
forward to?
one more for me.
I think Chapman is. We got to find a way to get him the ball more. He's a dog. You watch the one run where he broke 5 tackles. He's 160 pounds. Didn't look like she'd be on the football field, but the kid plays his heart out. He plays extremely hard. Cares about his teammates. Always has a smile on his face. And he's what our program is all about. And I couldn't be more excited about him and about the way he fought and played on Saturday.
Is that something that's exciting, always coming out of the first week, seeing a player like that for the first time in that competition and really taking it to a level that you really thought he could do?
It is. But I tell you what, I saw that all through camp. And I saw it in spring ball before he got hurt. He broke his ankle during spring, and he was like a month ahead of schedule coming back, and he didn't miss a beat. And the kid loves football. He loves being out there, loves his teammates, and plays with the kind of effort, attitude, and toughness that we want guys to play with around here. And so he's the example right now.
And always nice to have a tough guy who's got soft hands.
No question. But yeah, we got to figure out a way to get him the ball more out in space, and we will.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
I did check on the time of possession. It was pretty much 16:30 to 13:30 Navy, both halves. We actually had it for almost 12 minutes in the second quarter, 11 and a half. Yeah.
The long drive right before the half, right?
Yep. Pete Medhurst.
Coach, can you quantify, as Joe and I tried to describe it to the audience, just what having a 6th-year quarterback who's played 50 games and how different it is from the quarterback you faced a year ago with that same team, his pocket, just subtle pocket manipulation that buys more time and gives him an ability to give that receiver the extra step. Plus, there were 3 throws where he basically threw the person open because he's just an elite quarterback. Can you just explain what kind of difference that makes for a team as opposed to a quarterback who clearly doesn't have that kind of elite experience that Sam Hartman brought to that game?
Yeah. Well, I think it's everything. Unfortunately, that's something that we've seen a lot, the last 2 years. Last year in conference play, there were 2 6-year quarterbacks that we went against. And, to put it into comparison, right, if we were anywhere else in the country, John Marshall would have 2 years left to play.
Right.
And so that's a little bit of what we're dealing with. But to have a quarterback that is talented as him, that's as smart and has played as many snaps and has as much experience as he has is a tremendous advantage for them.
With your team, some of your newer concepts, the split backs, the full house backfield, all look like they had some really nice things happen. Plus, Texa delivered the way in the game, you thought he and Dabo looked like they're going to be a real formidable duo for you after what you saw against that type of competition.
Yeah, I think so. I've been bragging about those two guys, all through spring and fall camp. Really excited about them and excited to see their progress through the season. But to be able to put both those guys on the field, some of the stuff that Coach Chestnut's doing is really good stuff. And it's always going to be the way that our offense is built. It's about getting your best players on the field and getting the ball to your best players, and I think that allows us to do that.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
I tweeted this out during the game, but our direct freshmen, Navy's direct freshmen, were in the 7th grade when Sam Hartman was a freshman at Wake Forest. Just to compare situations. Here, I got Wag's question via text. There was a report that Navy came out in a formation Notre Dame did not anticipate or practice for. Is that encouraging since Coach Chestnut had talked about using multiple formations to keep teams off balance?
That was Wag's question.
That was Wags' question. Yeah. Because the Notre Dame linebacker said in the press conference, Notre Dame's linebacker said.
Yeah. I think that's what we have to be able to do. The days of lining up in double slot formation, which is what everybody's going to practice against during the week, and we need to be able to do that some. The days of us spending, 30 or 40 snaps in that every week are over. We've got to find different creative ways to do the same things, but with a different presentation, different formations to create leverage and to create numbers, advantages. And Coach Chestnut's the master at that. And I'm excited about our offense and where it's going to evolve to. And we're still a work in progress, but I really like what we're doing. I really do. And to be able to add some of the quick throw stuff that we've talked about that you didn't quite see a whole lot in the first game, to have all that built into the offense, the flexibility to get the ball to different places on the field, take advantage of what people are giving us is exciting.